Good morning, everybody. Woo! That was exciting. Was that Debbie? That was fantastic. Good morning. This is when we thought about Julyapalooza being a series where we do it outside. This is what we were hoping for every single day. So you're welcome. We did this just for you today. Thanks for being here. This is just awesome. Thanks for being out here this morning. If I have not yet met you, my name is Dave. I'm one of the pastors here, and it is awesome to be out here with you this morning. Anybody like to retell stories of what's happened in their past? Some storytellers in the group? Any people? Okay, a few. I was just waiting for it. Okay, so there was a moment in my history that I remember very, very vividly. We create these moments in our mind. We pocket them as memories of what's happened. And there's one moment, anytime I walk by the rope aisle at Home Depot, or when I've got some of this rope at home, I remember so very clearly. There was a time in 6th grade. We were transitioning into a new school. Everybody's moving to from elementary to middle school, where they wanted to break the ice of the new school and the new group of people by having a field day at the beginning of the year, which I'm like, okay, let's do this. I will show the world how athletic I am, okay, which I'm not. Especially as 6th grade me, little pudgy 6th grade me who had probably 50 pounds more weight than I needed to. I'm there. I'm like, this is my chance to show the world how amazing I am. Here we go. And so they took us out to the track and field area at the high school. And first up, long jump. That's when I realized Dave is a white man, and Dave cannot jump very well. But I gave it a go. I got a solid 2 feet in there. And by that, I mean my 2 feet landed in the sand, and it didn't go very far. Okay, but then as different events happen, things, it's all going down. We're all trying to establish who's who and meet new people. And as a middle school boy, I'm trying to exert whatever testosterone dominance I can and show the world how cool I am, right? And so they get to this last event, tug of war. And I remember very clearly they used this type of rope because it was prickly and it hurt. But I needed to show the world that I was a man. And so, Brian, would you come here? And so they bring out this rope, and there's me and about 5 or 6 other people with me. And then they're calling out the names of who's going to be on the other side. And up walks this kid. Okay. For the sake of the story, we're going to call him Matt because that was his name. And so they call Matt up to the rope. And Matt, as a 6th grader, is about the size of a college football player who's taken about 5 cups too many steroids. And so I'm here as this chubby little 6th grade boy trying to figure my life out. And he's over there like he's conquered the world already, so what's a rope? And so I'm holding onto the rope. I'm getting nervous because I need the girls to see how cool I am, right? And so we start pulling, and no joke. Go ahead, pull, Brian. Come on. Here we go. All right. It snaps in half. Completely in half, just snaps. I go flying backwards. I may have wet myself a little. Not a lot, not enough that I needed to change, but just a little. And so they pull out the second rope. Of course, why wouldn't you have a second rope? I was like, oh, come on. I thought this moment was over. So we start pulling again, and it took all of, half a second for Matt to win the day. He didn't even need a team. He could have just won. But those moments are moments that stick with you forever. Tug of war is the worst game ever, okay? So don't try to play that with me. But you remember those things. How many people have those moments? You have moments that you remembered, right? Okay, how many people do not like history and would rather live in today? Live in today. Any of those people? I am terrible at living in today. I'm always thinking about something else. I cannot be in the moment if I want to be. How many are futurists? You like to think about what's coming, what's around the corner? This is the world I live in. I don't care about history. I probably should. I don't. Today is okay, but tomorrow is what I'm living for. Tomorrow is awesome. Now, why do I share all that? Well, because today as we look at the chapter that's in front of us from the book of Psalms, David is writing a poem. He's writing a story that captures all 3 of these moments. What happened in the past, where we're at now, and what he's asking God to do in the future. And so I want you to keep that in mind as we read this. If you're not familiar much with the Bible at all, that's okay. The Psalms are right in the middle because everything good happens in the middle. Everything good, like the cream filling in the Oreo, this is the Psalms. If you're a cookie person in the Oreo, shame on you. The good stuff's in the middle. Unless you're the youngest in your family, then the youngest is the best. So youngest, that's right, you guys win. Okay, so let me read this. This is from a writer named David, and he's talking to God. He's reminiscing about the past. He's examining where they're at now, and he's asking for God's blessing in the future. This is what it says. Psalm 126. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. Now he's talking about today. Restore our fortunes, Lord, like streams in the Negev. Turning to the future. Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Those who go out to weeping will return carrying seed. Those who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them. Now, first glance, okay, there's a lot of different things going on. Let's just talk about what this means. So he's looking back and saying God is up to something around us. God has been up to something. God is continuing to be up to something around us. God is up to something. In the first 3 verses, he shares about that. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, what he's talking about is his people had been in captivity for 70 years in Babylon. They had been waiting for God to deliver their promises. They've been waiting for God to take them to the next step. And they were stuck there, just waiting, trying to figure out what is God doing? When is this going to happen? And all of a sudden, God takes them out of captivity, and their whole story shifts. They became like those who dreamed. They dreamed of the day when this was going to happen, and it was finally happening. And their mouths were filled with laughter, and their tongues with songs of joy. I love both laughter and joy. Okay, these sound like good things. Sound good to anybody else? Yes, okay, good. If you don't like laughter, shame on you again. You're in the wrong place. We like laughter. No. And I'll tell you how much we like... No, that doesn't work that way. But their story shifted because God showed up, because God moved, because they were able to identify God has a plan for us. He's going to do something. He's up to something. God has plans for you. As it pauses to shift to talk about today, he says, restore our fortunes, Lord, like the streams in the Negev. The Negev is an area in the south. It's a desert land that desperately needed water to survive. It's not going to happen without it. And in our lives, I cannot tell you how many moments like that come in. I know that you can think of moments in your life when you felt that way, if you're not there right now. I've, in fact, talked to a lot of people in the last 2 weeks who are feeling that desert season. They're feeling like, I need an outpouring of God in some way, shape, or form. It's got to show up because I have no idea what's next if he doesn't show up. I have no idea. I talked with a couple of couples who are just at the end of the rope with their marriage, trying to figure out how can we make this happen. And if God doesn't show up, we've got nothing. 2 people in the last 2 weeks who have met with me who have said, I lost my job out of the blue. No idea. Didn't expect it, didn't see it coming. I don't know what's next. I have no idea. I've met with people who just have no plan for the future. They just don't know what's going on. And they're just lacking that hope of what's to come. And let me tell you, what this is telling us in this chapter, in this story, is that God has something for you. God has a plan for you. There is hope. Hold on to that hope. That's what he's pushing for in this. Hold on to that hope. We get scared by hard situations. We don't know what's coming. We don't know what's around the corner, but God is not scared by those. In fact, sometimes God takes us to those hard situations because in those moments, it's when we realize most that I cannot do this. I have to have God to get me through this. I have to have hope. I have to have something else around me because it's not going to work otherwise. And so this idea of hope as it's laid out in the Old Testament, in the old part of the Bible, it describes it as a cord or an attachment. A rope, something you hold on to. It's not just something you see. It's not just an idea. It is a very physical, it is a tangible something you can hold. Hold on to hope is what it's saying. Cling to that hope because God has something for you. And in fact, when the Bible talks about hope, when God is referenced later in the New Testament, it describes God's hope as an anchor. So it's not just something you hold on to. It's something that's not going anywhere. He's not going to leave you. He's not going to let go. He's not going to change who he is. He is going to stay true to him, and he's asking you to grab on so that when things get hard, when situations get tough, when you have no idea what's going to happen next, you've got a lifeline. You've got this. And if you're in a place right now where you're in that hard season and I have no idea what's next, grab on. Yesterday, I was holding on to hope that my kids will someday move out of my house. Okay, they're only 7, 5, and 2, and I'm holding out for those next 16 years like it's going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my children, but they're very good at pushing. They're very good, and I've got one right now who's still trying to figure out how does he deal with his own emotions, and it's hard. It's hard. I get it, man. It's tough. But hold on. Hold on to hope, because God has got something around the corner for you. God is up to something. He's got plans for you. And the big idea that we talk about as a church often is this phrase, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. God has something waiting for you that he is just waiting to bless you with. He's got something around the corner for you. The best is yet to come. For these people, after they were let go from captivity in Babylon, they were shouting. There were songs of joy. There was so much excitement, and they were ready for what God had in store for them. Now they've dried back up, and they're saying, God, we need you to show up again. Please move. Please do something in our life. They had a dream of what God could do. I love that. Because I've had moments in my life where I can recall very vividly where I was kind of in a moment where I needed to decide, am I going to stay with my family here in Mount Pleasant, or are we going to move somewhere else? And there was a job opportunity that looked really enticing, and I can remember very, very vividly sitting on my lawnmower and just weeping because I sensed God so physically telling me there is something more for you in Central Michigan. There is something more for you here. And that dream turned into an idea of what could be. And that turned into an idea of how I could be a part of a movement that not only blessed the Central Michigan area, but that radically changed the world by showing people hope, by showing them love, by honoring them, by taking care of people. And all of a sudden, I met up with this guy named Jason who was starting a young church called Thrive Church. And he started laying out the vision of what he wanted to see happening in Central Michigan. And it was almost word for word what I had asked God for. And I saw God show up, and I saw him, and I was like, okay, God, I see where your dreams are taking me. I see where this is going. I see what's around the corner. And grabbing onto this rope, I'm not afraid to go there. Let's figure it out. And I had no idea how financially we were going to make that work. In fact, it scared the poop out of me to think about how that was going to work, because there were a couple of months in the span in between where we were shifting over here where I had no idea how God was going to provide. Had no idea how I was going to feed my 2 kids and my pregnant wife. I had no idea what was going to happen. But I trusted God enough to say, you've done it before, you'll do it again. You'll do it again. And in those couple of months where I had no paycheck from my previous job, all of a sudden support came in from left and right, and we had a check for almost the same amount that we were missing show up in our mailbox. It's like, okay, God, you worked. You did something. You did something incredible. And in fact, at the end of that, we had a surplus, and we ended up giving that surplus back to the church because it's like, we didn't do this. We weren't the ones who provided for this. God showed up, and so let's invest in what God is doing. That vision, that dream, that goal of what God could do in my life, that dream of what God could do in Central Michigan or around the world is what drives me all the time. When I wake up, I start my morning by praying in bed because, 1, I need to pray, and 2, I don't want to get out of bed. So that's an excuse to stay in for an extra couple minutes. But then the 2 things that drive me after that, hope for what's to come and coffee, okay? Hope and coffee. And I'm not talking about the coffee that's filled with cream and sugar, because that's not really coffee. That's for fakers. I'm talking about the good stuff that is rich and dark and black, okay? So if that's you in this crowd, I love you very, very much. You're good people. But there's a verse that rings through my head all the time that keeps me going, that keeps me driving toward what God has in store for me. And it's this, from Galatians 6, verse 8. It says, let's not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Don't give up. In those moments where you feel like you've got nothing left to give, in those moments where you feel like there is no hope in front of you, grab onto the rope and just trust that God has got something in store for you. God is going to take hold of my life. God is going to lead this. God is going to provide. He's going to give me everything I need. And look forward with future hope for what's to come. The biggest lesson I've had to learn in all of this, and I want to encourage all of you in this, is you don't have to know the plans to start working. You don't have to know the next step. You just have to trust God at his word and say, God, I know that you've got something in store for me. I know that you're going to provide in this season. I know that this is hard. Life is real. Things get tough, but you're going to take me to where I need to go. And so I'm going to take a step. Very, very, very rarely in all of the Bible, in all of history, did God tell his people where he wanted them to go and then give them detailed instructions on how to get there. He just doesn't. He says, this is where I need you to go. Get moving. Okay. And God takes care of them every step of the way. And in your life, in those hard moments, grab onto the rope, trust God, cling to that hope that the best is yet to come. God's got a plan for you. He's up to something. Let's move that way. Those moments can be hard. And in fact, it's saying it's okay for it to be hard because they went out to sow with tears. They went out to sow, to plant the seed, weeping. It was so hard, so difficult. There is no promise that that crop was going to turn up. Nothing. They just went out to sow, trusting that God was going to provide for them. And at the end of the day, they came back with shouts of joy. They came back with songs of excitement and bushels and bushels and bushels of harvest because God provided for them. God took care of them. And in your life, whatever that hard thing is right now, whatever you need to get through, he's right there, ready to provide that blessing for you. He's ready. And I'll tell you, it's easier for me, I think, to have these conversations with people, to tell them what God is doing, to talk about God, than it is for a lot of people, because as soon as they hear, oh, you're a pastor, they talk to you differently. Whether they should or shouldn't, they just talk to you differently. And I understand those conversations are hard. I get it. And people can hear your words or they can reject your words. That's their choice. But they cannot deny the reality of what God is doing in your life. If you take that step of faith, if you take a step forward and go, God, I don't know what's going to happen, but I need you to show up, and God shows up, you start singing these songs of joy, there is no one who can refute that. There's no one who can look at you and go, oh, no, that didn't happen. No, God showed up. Like, there's no way this could have happened if God did not show up. So take those steps. Let God show up and use that as a story to share with the world, to change the world with what God can do through you and in you. But you have to identify, where is my hope in? Where is my hope today? When things get hard, where is my hope? When things are going great, where is my hope? Where am I choosing to put my trust? Because if you are tied to yourself, because it's so much easier to trust myself, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to take care of this, and things get hard, and you start swirling around life's storm, you've got nothing to anchor you down. You are going to trip, you are going to stumble, you're going to fall. You do have nothing to hold on to. But when you tie yourself to the source of power, to the source of somebody who never changes, somebody who gives you the strength, who promises to provide and always has and always will, who is the author and perfecter of faith, Scripture says. He provides for your every need, and he can do immeasurably more than you ask or imagine. Your wildest dreams are just the tip of the iceberg of what he could do for you if you let him. So grab onto that rope. Cling on to that rope. Cling on. That's Klingon. That's totally different. But grab the rope. Grab on and trust that God is going to do something incredible in your life, and take the step to be obedient to that, to follow that, to let him take the lead. And he will do it. He is up to something. He's got plans for you. The best is yet to come. This is my favorite quote that I read this week from John Maxwell. He says, where there is no hope in the future, there is no power in the present. Where there's no hope in the future, there's no power in the present. What gives you the strength to move day to day, step to step, through a hard season, through the best season of your life, is knowing that God has got something in store for you. There will come a day where you're united with Jesus. You get to see him face to face when you take that step of faith and trust him. He says, I will restore you. I will heal you. I will take care of your every need. So put that trust there. So what is your next step in that? What is your next step? Maybe the step is, for the first time in your life, you need to grab hold of what God offers and say, Jesus, I'm going to just trust you and see what happens. I'm going to take a step of faith and go, I can't do this on my own. Can you take me there? If you're already grabbing onto this rope, if you already trust that God is the Lord of your life, if you've taken that step to say, Jesus, you are everything I need, your goal is to keep moving closer and closer to the source. Your goal is to take the next step to become more like Jesus, to become more like what God has in store for you. So take that next step forward. Maybe that's joining a group or joining a team. Maybe that's being a part of a community of believers together. Maybe that is taking a step of baptism, that you need to surrender in the waters of baptism, or you need to, whatever that is. Take that next step and trust that God is going to move and he's going to show up in your life. And I want to invite Corey and Janelle up. Corey and Janelle are going to share a story here in just a second about how God moved and how God showed up when they took that step of faith, when they put their hope in him and trusted him with the next step. And so I'm going to turn it to them. But in the meantime, let me pray for each of you, because I believe that God has a next step in store for each of you and he wants to lead you somewhere better. So let me pray. God, we know that you are in control of everything. And so right now, I pray that each one of us out here is taking a next step of faith, that we're asking you, what do you have in store for me? How can you bring me out of this situation? How can you bring me out of this hardship? How can you bring me from this great place I'm in to the next place you have for me? God, give us those dreams. Give us those visions of what you would have for us. And give us the faith to trust that you're going to provide. God, we already know that you're going to show up. We already know that you're going to change our hearts and our minds. So, Lord, we ask for you to move today. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, let me introduce to you two very fine people. One of them more fine than the other. I'll let you... Oh, wait, no. Oh, I don't have them. I just have Corey and Janelle instead. I'm just kidding. This is Corey and Janelle, and I'll just turn the floor to you guys and let you share your story a little.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. I'm Janelle. This is Corey. When we were asked to come up here to talk about our baptism story and, you know, what that meant to us and everything, I had some thoughts. I thought, you know, God, my baptism story, it wasn't, you know, amazing. It wasn't, you know, anything incredible that happened and stuff. You know, I made the choice to become baptized. It was seemingly, you know, the next step in my faith and everything. So I thought about it. Myself and my girls made the decision after talking to Jason and everything to go forward and, you know, publicly proclaim our faith and our trust in the Lord and everything. So we went down to Lake Isabella a couple years ago and we were baptized. And, you know, don't get me wrong, it was amazing. It was, you know, awesome and everything. But, you know, there was no confetti. There was no firework.
There will be this year.
Yeah, there might be this year now. You know, but I was thinking, you know, when I was asked to come up here, you know, what can I say to you? What can I say to that person who hasn't been baptized yet? And I got thinking, and a lot of what I was thinking about was what happened to me after I was baptized and what, you know, where God led my story after that. So, you know, after I was baptized, it seems that my whole trajectory of where I was going in life, you know, and what I was doing, did, you know, kind of a 180. You know, it changed. You know, I was more involved with the church. I was, you know, more involved in the community, things that I was totally not comfortable with before. Probably never would have, you know, crossed my mind to do before. You know, so I got thinking of all the opportunities and everything that the path that God's led me on for, you know, till now. Dave had talked about, you know, the best is yet to come. My baptism was, you know, God showing me that the best was yet to come. But, you know, me being able to come up here and help to develop do-good activities for members of our church and groups of our church to go out and serve the community and help others and, you know, just love on everybody out there in the community who deserves and who needs the love out there. You know, that was part of my best to come. And, you know, I still believe, you know, baptism was part of that best in my life, but I strongly feel that my best come is still out there. You know, God's not done with me yet. He's not done with my family yet. He's got big plans for us. And, you know, taking that first step, which was my next step with baptism, was what kind of got that path moving. So, you know, it's definitely changed our lives.
The morning that we went up, I knew that Janelle and the girls were going to get baptized, and I'd been kind of struggling with it, and I'd been thinking about it. It was something that I wanted to do, and I wanted to do for a long time, you know, but I wasn't sure if the time was right, and so, you know, I brought a change of clothes. We don't live too far from Lake Isabella, but I bought a change of clothes just in case, and I talked to Janelle, and she said, you know, go talk to Jason and see what he says. And, you know, I hadn't filled out all the proper paperwork or any of that other stuff, but I really...
Very rigorous.
It is.
There's no paperwork.
There's a survey. There's all kinds of things. I'm just kidding. So anyways, I went up to Jason. He's like, heck yes, we can baptize you. So we get it, or we've been told, and it's been said here that there's nothing magic about the water. There's that it's not, you know... But for me, it kind of was. There was just this moment, and I've had asthma all my life, and I've had the trouble breathing, and I do have some anxiety issues, and I've had that for a long time. But when I came out of that water, it was like all the junk and all the crap was just. I'm sorry. Was just
it's okay.
left there.
You can say crap.
Okay.
It's okay.
It was just left there. It was different. And people that didn't know the journey that I was on and what I was going through, because one of my, I'm not real good at sharing, believe it or not. Like in the Christian thing is, you know, it's new. And so that's one of my weak points. And people that I worked with that didn't know what I was going through would come up to me and they're like, there's something different about you. You're just, something is not the same. And I mean, in a good way, but it was just, it was a transformation, that moment of figuring out that, yeah, I'd gotten along as Corey, being Corey for 40 years, 39 years, something like that. But when I started being the Corey that God intended me to be, and that came into my life, it's amazing how much things changed and how different things are and how much easier it is to breathe at times. It's just, it's amazing. So if you're thinking about it, if you've got that little, that right here, it's not you. It's somebody telling you it's time to make that change, to make that, or to commit that. And there's no way, I wish I would have done it earlier. So
I love it. Thanks, guys, so much. There's so much to be said about grabbing hold of what Jesus has for you and running with it. You don't have to know how to know who. You don't have to know what to know who. You don't have to know any of the next steps. You just have to trust that God is going to provide and God is going to take you where you need to be. And so these are two living, breathing examples of it that we love very much. John, if we are interested in getting baptized in a couple weeks or taking any sort of next step of faith, what do we do?
So here's the thing real quick. So about baptism in particular, if you go to our website, thrivechurchinmind.com, there's going to be a tab right there on our homepage about our baptism event. And that, like, if you click on that tab, that will get you connected. It's a really simple contact form. If you give us some real quick information, whether you want to get baptized, whether you just have questions about it, fill that out. It takes 2 seconds, and then what you get is you get a phone call from me, and we'll find a time to just sit down and talk to answer any questions you might have about the process, what goes into it, make sure you're ready to go. It's serious. And then come April 19th, here in like 3 weeks. We're just gonna party.
April's in 3 weeks.
Or April, excuse me. The other August.
August, yeah,
August
that's the
19th.
one. Hey, next week we are back inside for our regular sort of setup, our regular sort of feel inside for our I Love My Church series. Jason is back to teach next week, which is awesome. He's in Wisconsin this week, which is home of cheese and nothing else good. But he's there. Packers.
Could be worse. Could be Ohio.
It could be Ohio. The only thing good to come from Ohio is Nikki Morelli, who was up here singing
That's fair.
earlier. That's about it.
That's fair.
But hey, before you go, there's a couple opportunities in the back. Stop and talk to the folks from Hopewell Ranch. There's some incredible serving opportunities right around the corner that we'd love to help you get connected with. And grab a bowl of ice cream and some delicious sprinkles.
There will be
on
some
the way.
wonderful 1U students to help you back there. Say hi to them as well because they're fun.
It's good.
It's good. It's all
I love
good.
it. All right. We'll see you guys later. Have a great week.